Alex. So Alex has 5 minutes for Q&A. So raise your hand if you'd like to ask him a question, and somebody will bring you a microphone. Yes, first one way back there. So when you stand up, please tell us your name and your company, and then ask your question for Alex.
Deborah Bell, JP Morgan. My question is, all of this is like fabulous and would be very exciting, invigorating environment. How did you think about the economics of, invest, pay back kind of thing around this development strategy?
Payback.
Just in terms of it was either going to attract. I don't know. Was there any economic business case put around it, or is it more theory?
No, I mean most definitely. I mean, I think the assumption is that people will pay. The larger companies will definitely pay a premium for this type of environment, because this type of environment goes far beyond just a commodity real estate strategy and is actually part of their innovation strategy. So when we talk to larger companies, we're not just talking to like the real estate director and their series of brokers. We're actually talking to like the chief marketing officer, the innovation officer, the CEO, who are like, wait a second, for our company to maintain relevance, for our company to know what's going on, we need to be located in a place like this. We need to be tethered to these types of networks. We need to be where, and so, most companies understand the reason why Twitter and Square and Airbnb and these companies exist in San Francisco is because they know that's where their creative talent is, and they know that that's where a lot of the new ideas exist, but they never really have thought that, oh, wait a second, we could actually be surgically connected to all these different idea makers and all these small companies that are prototyping ideas that may never really get off the ground, but they may get off the ground with the help of a Google, with the help of a Facebook, or a larger company that has the economic backbone to scale. And so the assumption is that the companies will pay for this and basically, provide the economic backbone of the development project. At 5M, we have about 700,000 square feet of office space, so there's an enormous opportunity and a substantial economic backbone for the site.
Okay, next question. Anybody want to?
Hi, Ray Prisman, Bloomberg. A lot of larger companies have a need, real or maybe to some extent imagined, for intellectual property protection, secrecy, privacy. I know those are buzzwords I haven't heard this morning, because all this collaborative is great, but where, if anywhere, is there room for that in these sorts of collaborative spaces?
It's a great question. I appreciate it, because it's a really important topic, and I know a topic that is quite scary to larger companies, even though these companies are kind of hemorrhaging talent. Like people work in Silicon Valley, they work for like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Yahoo, and it's like, of course they're carrying, or Greg pointed out that hiring consultants, you're oftentimes hiring them because they can share IP. So IP is being hemorrhaged much more than companies probably like to admit they are. However, the large companies that say exist at 5M, the way I look at it is it's a firewall, and the company can dial in how much they want to protect and not protect, and they do that through our operations management, our network management, saying like what type of circulation pathways do they want to have, how permeable do they want to be to the placemaking networks, how open of partnerships do they want to have, what do they want to share, what do they want to hide. And so we're constantly dialing that up and dialing that down in the same way that our body, our immune system is dialing up greater permeability or less permeability depending on how threatening we think our physical environment is. So I think companies will shift that depending on what works, but I think we need to recognize that that's flexible, that changes. That's not just something that we build a cement wall and that just is the way it is, because companies that have done that are the companies that are like, we're not hearing information from the other side. We need information on this from the other side of that wall. So I think they'll shift, and I think if there needs to be a receptive management mechanism that can make that change. So I think it requires operations management, or what we call network management, to be able to flex based off what the company needs and when.
One more quick question. Anyone have a quick question? No? Yeah? Oh, Peter.
It's a great question. We've dabbled a little bit around potentially what could happen at Metro Tech, which is a project Forest City owns in downtown Brooklyn. The economics didn't pan out exactly to be able to do something like 5M. There's a project on Roosevelt Island that we've looked at as well, applying. These are being prototyped in San Francisco and with Forest City West, and Forest City Ratner, based in New York, is like a very different company, basically. Forest City is very unique in its different regions, and so the application of this, I can say, works very much in California, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, potentially Portland, Seattle. I can't speak to the New York market as well to know how, I mean, we're kind of forced to do this through, in some ways, thank goodness, through the politics. In San Francisco, it requires a much more social development process. We actually at 5M, and I didn't have a chance to talk about this, but we raised about $1 million of foundation funding, predominantly from something called the Art Place Foundation, that is building 5M into an actual community asset for disadvantaged groups that live in the Tenderloin and 6th Street community. And so that itself is a prototype to make 5M much more diverse, much more accessible to a greater range of socioeconomics. And so the city puts pressure on those types of things, which allows us to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more experimental, and I can't speak to New York so much on that note.
So thank you, Alex. Actually, Jennifer Magnolfi, our next speaker, is going to continue this conversation. So thank you, Alex.